Watching Nerdrotic break down another crazy week in the DCEU, and he appropriately identified its greatest villain. Spoiler alert, it's the WB saying, them kids. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show channel. I am James, once again here to provide you with your one-stop shop for all things nerd, and we are talking yet again about the DCEU, about Zack Snyder, about Justice League, and everything that comes with that. And, I think no matter where you side on, the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League, it's pretty undeniable that the amount of buzz and hype surrounding it has generated more interest in the DCEU in years, more than it's had in a long, long time. And what does Warner Brothers decide to do with that? Well, they want to end the party at 11. That is exactly what Warner Brothers CEO Ann Sarnoff is doing in this exclusive interview with Variety. By the way, nothing, says end the party and be less cool than let's float stuff out there in Variety. Way to be on the cutting edge there. But let's before we get into the things that she said, I want to break down sort of the intro of this puff piece, and make no mistake about it, they grease the wheels here at Variety. Brent Lang, he writes, Warner Media Studios CEO Ann Sarnoff says that the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League will complete the director's superhero trilogy, reinforcing the studio's desire to move past the social media campaign to hand back control of the DC film universe to the filmmaker. Instead, Sarnoff believes that the future of DC is more than just movies. She's excited about a multi-platform future, one that sees Batman, Superman, The Flash, and other Justice League members popping up on streaming shows, video games, television spin-offs, and big screen outings. It's a vision that echoes what Marvel has been doing with its Avengers characters. Right, because we've never seen Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, any of these characters in video games, TV series, movies, or anything like that before. What is this new vision of Ann Sarnoff's? I mean, it's ridiculous. Not to mention, come on, look no further than the great Mortal Kombat versus DC that just showcased, all of these wonderful DC characters. But it's this laughable introduction that somehow this is the new vision, but it does underscore Warner Brothers' sort of inferiority complex that it feels right now to Marvel. Why things have gotten so jumbled up with the DCEU in the first place is this sort of wanting to catch up, this desperation need to catch up to the MCU, and it's just led to chaos. And so I want to break down some very sort of telling quotes from Ann Sarnoff in this Variety article, and make no mistake about it, it's been making the rounds. People are going crazy about this thing, and it's not positive. And I just want to highlight here before we get into it the fact that she is effectively closing the door on the Zack Snyder vision for the DCEU at a time when his vision, this Snyder cut, has created the most interest in the DCEU that it's ever had. And, has gotten the fans to be so engaged, the hype, the buzz, people that aren't into nerd stuff being like, hey, what am I hearing? What am I hearing about this Zack Snyder cut? What's this 4-hour superhero movie? Do I need to check this out? Just the amount of buzz and interest that this has generated cannot be overstated. But here comes Ann Sarnoff to Variety and say, yeah, we're gonna pull our own plug on one of the best things that happened to this film franchise. It's really absurd when you think about it. The just pointing the gun at their own head that they're doing here. It's ridiculous. It's unfathomable. But let's dive into some of the quotes. So here we go. Why did you decide to release Zack Snyder's Justice League? She says, we wanted to give Zack the opportunity to complete his vision in a 4-hour movie, which is impossible to do in theaters. We're happy that we have HBO Max to let the rope out, as it were, and allow the fans to see all 4 hours of Zack's vision. How many times can she say 4 hours in one answer? It was like she was just sort of throwing shade at the length of their own crown jewel of HBO Max in this answer. I guarantee that they encouraged it to be this length because they wanted it as a selling point for HBO Max, which it was, and it's been incredibly successful. The response to it has been overwhelmingly positive, but here she comes like, well, couldn't release it in theaters. True, but she just keeps hammering the fact it's like, well, it's this 4-hour behemoth, and we just wanted to give him time to create that 4-hour behemoth. By the way, did I mention it's 4 hours? It's really way too long. All of our stuff's going to be shorter, much more manageable. It's just, anyway, that's one thing that I wanted to highlight. But let's continue. She was also asked, what are your plans going forward for DC? We've got an incredible group of characters, television series creators, Max series creators, feature film creators who are basically broadening the base of talent that we work with on DC because we're so excited about the potential to build out the DC multiverse. It's one of the reasons why I was hired almost 2 years ago. The before and after was it was a very siloed organization with no connectivity between the businesses. DC was being developed, but in a kind of monolithic way in each division. My mantra coming in was to make it bigger and broader. And we really want to surprise and delight the fans with more connective tissue across the various media and platforms. I'm talking movies, HBO Max, television, and our games division. She wants to make it broader, talking about the multiverses, all these things, connectivity, tissue, whatever. Yet, the movie that all of that could spring from is Zack Snyder's Justice League. We talked about it before. The fact that they restored the whole Darkseid story arc, how that movie played out, it is literally the first branch for all of these things that they could spring from. And she has the audacity to say that it's like, well, we're just going to close the book on that because we want to get more broad and we want to be able to have the connectivity and the tissue and everything like that. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't jive. So I don't know what to tell you. But we must press forward. Now we are going to get into the heart of why I say that Ann Sarnoff and WB pulled a Michael Jordan and said, F them kids, because, the Snyder Cut, it all happened because of the fans. One of the most important things about this ordeal is the fact that, this holy grail of Justice League films, the Snyder Cut, it got so much fan engagement that I think even Marvel would have been a little jealous of. Now, it's, making the best out of a bad situation because a lot of fans didn't like Justice League, or at least Disney bots out there made the collective ethos that people didn't like Justice League. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the bottom line is, tremendous fan engagement, grassroots, everybody wanting to see this thing happen. And so she was asked about that fan involvement and what she thinks about that moving forward. And she said, we're always going to listen to our fans, but we are in service of the broadest fan base, and we owe them an integrated, holistic strategy. We are the shepherds of the franchise, and hopefully when the fans see what we've got in store, they'll know that DC is in good hands across many different platforms with many different creators. We want different voices in the mix. For certain fans that want singular voices, they may be disappointed, but we would ask them to be patient and see what we've got in store because perhaps the newer voices in the mix will have just as compelling stories to tell. On balance, you of course want to listen to your fans, but we want to stay true to our vision and our mission for DC to build that out. In other words, F the fans, F them kids. You got what we wanted. You bought into HBO Max to get the Snyder Cut, and now we're just going to go away from that, and we're going to force feed you more crap. Why would we trust Warner Brothers, to be in good hands? And I understand that there is a balance to be struck between listening to your fan base and not letting them try and dictate or revolt. Trust me, I'm a pro wrestling fan. I see it all the time, and the whining and the complaining, and you do have to strike that balance. But again, coming in here and sort of slamming this door and thumbing her nose at the fans that have made, this moment in the DCEU its biggest moment. The timing of it is just, I can't wrap my head around it. The fact that in the midst of all of the critical praise, all of the interest, it is this just sort of slamming the door shut. Let's continue. And let's keep it with the fans. She was asked about maybe the negative side of the fandoms, the quote, toxic fandoms, which God, the overuse of that word, I just, not everything is toxic. And if this fandom is, then every fandom is. Newsflash. People just need to stop using that word in general. Toxic masculinity, toxic fandom, toxic Avenger, toxic shock. I don't care. Stop using the word.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
We're not tolerating any of that. That behavior is reprehensible no matter what franchise you're talking about or what business you're talking about. It's completely unacceptable. I'm very disappointed in the fans that have chosen to go to that negative place with regard to DC. With regard to some of our executives, it's just disappointing because we want this to be a safe place to be. We want DC to be a fandom that feels safe and inclusive. We want people to be able to speak up for the things that they love, but we don't want it to be a culture of canceling things that any small faction isn't happy with. We're not about that. We're about positivity and celebration. We're about positivity and celebration. We're disappointed that you fans would do this, that you would be the cancelers of this. The fact that she sort of doesn't go out of her way to say that we think it's a minority of the fans that are, making these threats or being, quote, toxic, again, there's that word that I hate to use, is very telling to me and shows exactly how she feels about the fans, which goes back to the theme of this video, which is F them kids. That's how she feels about the fans of WB. She just wants your money, and she's getting what she wanted with the HBO Max and Zack Snyder cut, and now just throwing him in the trash because he is no longer useful to her and WB. Although I would disagree. I think that he still is useful to her, but she's so short-sighted and stupid that she can't sort of wrap her own mind around that and is ending what could be the golden age of DCEU movies before it really even gets started. She also was asked about the Ray Fisher allegations. She danced around that. That's a whole nother topic for another video, and we maybe have to revisit that at a later time. But in the wake of the Snyder Cut has been fans clamoring to release the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, and maybe my favorite answer of the whole thing. Let's go to it. She was asked, will there be more of these director's cuts? Will we see David Ayer's cut of Suicide Squad? And I quote, "We won't be developing David Ayer's cut." And let's fast forward now to her appearance at a future Comic-Con on the same subject.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
So anybody that wants to see David Ayer's Suicide Squad, pretty much you can just go F right off. And I get that there's a difference because we have this new Suicide Squad movie that's already, well down the track, and we're going to get spin-offs off of that. But why not mine this for more money? You already set the precedent with the Snyder Cut. The genie's sort of out of the bottle for doing this. And, take more of our money. I personally don't think that there's a movie necessarily to be saved in that Suicide Squad. Goes completely off the rails after about 30 minutes.
But I've been wrong before.
Clearly, there are a lot of people out there that are interested in seeing it and would, be into staying with HBO Max for longer. And you could still release the Suicide Squad and all these spin-offs that you have going, but not interested in that. Although time will tell to see if they reverse course, which WB is known for doing. And finally, asked about the next phase of what comes after the Snyder Cut, and what we've been talking about here is the restore the SnyderVerse. Here's what she had to say. "I appreciate that they love Zack's work, and we are very thankful for his many contributions to DC, BS. We're just so happy that he could bring his cut of the Justice League to life, because that wasn't in the plan until about a year ago. With that comes the completion of his trilogy. We're very happy we've done this, but we're very excited about the plans we have for all the multidimensional DC characters that are being developed right now." Again, thanks for the money. Wasn't in the plans until about a year ago. HBO Max and all that stuff, the pandemic needing a selling point, a big tentpole project, again, a crown jewel. And I don't know, just reading this, it feels like, lording this over. You should be thanking us, Zack Snyder. When it should be the other way around. They should be kissing his ass for this, because this is, again, the most important, the most attention, most eyeballs on the DCEU in a really long time comes courtesy of the Snyder Cut, which blew away all of my expectations. I was, not exactly championing this whole thing because I liked, more than most the 2017 version. After seeing the Snyder Cut, I realized why everybody was clamoring for it. Much better. And it is what should be the new canon for the DCEU if they want the most possible success. But they don't. They're going to keep shooting themselves in their own foot, cutting off their nose to spite their face. That seems to be WB's MO, and you hate to see it. And so they're telling, like Michael Jordan, F them kids. If they keep going this route, they're going to be like the crying Jordan meme and begging for these cuts to be re-released. Thanks so much for watching this far, Nerdosphere. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and join our Discord, bestdamnnerdshow.com/Discord if you want to get in on the discussion yourself, and keep saying it loud and saying it proud.